Hi, this week we're going to be discussing Chapter 16 in our Human Resources book. Chapter 16 is about managing workplace safety and health. Approximately 3 million people were injured on the job in 2011, and 4,383 people died from work-related injuries in 2012. These numbers have been declining in the last several years due to improved safety and health conditions in the workplace. OSHA, this is a federal law that is designed to make the workplace safer by ensuring that the work environment is free from hazards. OSHA doesn't provide for the compensation of accident victims. In 2011, workers' compensation laws were enacted, and the goals of workers' compensation laws are to, number one, provide prompt, sure, and reasonable medical care to victims and income to both victims and their dependents. Number two, it is to provide a no-fault system in which injured workers can get quick relief without undertaking expensive litigation and suffering court delays. And number three, it encourages employers to invest in safety. And four, it promotes research on workplace safety. Workers' compensation benefits compensate employees for injuries or illnesses occurring on the job, and these benefits include total disability benefits, and these are partial replacement. This is a partial replacement of income lost as a result of the work-related total disability. It also provides impairment benefits, and these are benefits for temporary or permanent disability based on the degree or the duration of the impairment. Injuries can be classified either scheduled or non-scheduled. And it will also provide survivor benefits in cases where the employee dies. The workers' survivors receive a burial allowance and income benefits. And it also provides medical expense benefits. Workers' comp provides medical coverage, normally without a dollar or time limitations. It provides rehabilitation benefits. All states provide rehab for injured workers, and some states provide vocational training if the employee can no longer work at the previous occupation. The cost of workers' compensation is directly related to the number of accidents a company has. Premiums can increase dramatically and stay high for years as a result of one single injury. Employee fraud in various forms can occur. Some of the most common injuries occur from overexertion, which includes lifting, pushing, and pulling heavy objects. Managers need to know the causes of these injuries so that they can focus their attention on prevention. OSHA stands for the Occupational Safety and Health Act of 1970, and this is a federal law that requires employers to provide a safe and healthy work environment, comply with specific occupational safety and health standards, and keep records of occupational injuries and illnesses. It imposes three major obligations to any employer. The first one being it's to provide a safe and healthy work environment free from hazards that are likely to cause harm and death. The second one being to comply with specific occupational safety and health standards. And number three, it's to keep records of occupational injuries and illnesses. Organizations with 8 or more employees must keep records of any occupational injury. So under OSHA and the right to know regulations, employers must provide employees with this information about hazardous substances that are in the workplace. This is known as the Hazard Communication Standard. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration have their primary responsibility for enforcing OSHA. It conducts workplace inspections, it issues citations and penalties, and develops standards and grants variances to employers. This agency has been criticized for a lack of specific standards on combustible dust, which is a dust from sources such as sugar, coal, wood, or flour that can explosively combust. The Occupational Safety and Health Review Commission operate independently from OSHA and review its citations. An employer can appeal any citations or penalties. The National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, which is NIOSH, exists mainly to research safety and health problems and to assist OSHA and the creation of new health and safety standards. State programs allow states to create their own occupational and safety health programs. OSHA will approve the state's plan if the state shows that it is able to set and enforce standards, provide and train competent enforcement personnel, and give technical and educational assistance to businesses. Effectively managing workplace safety and health injuries requires far more than reducing the number of job-related injuries. Managers, they must deal with a variety of practical, legal, and ethical issues, many of which involve a careful balancing of individual rights, particularly the right to privacy with the needs of the organization. Many of these situations call for human resources to develop and implement policies that deal with them. Some issues facing employers today are AIDS in the workplace, fetal protection, hazardous chemicals, and genetic testing. Along with this, there is a challenge of employee commitment to safety and health programs. There are key components of OSHA's bloodborne pathogen standards. The first one being they need to create an exposure plan to blood and body fluids, and this should be updated every year. They need to provide training annually regarding bloodborne infections, and it needs to be completed annually by all employees who could potentially be exposed. We do this at our place of employment, Parkview. Every year we have what they call fit testing because people can gain or lose weight, so we are tested with certain masks that fit our face, and there's not allowed to be any air that can go in or out of this mask. This provides us protection from tuberculosis. The next thing, they make available appropriate PPE, which is also called personal protective equipment, including gloves, masks, or any other gear that's necessary to protect employees if an accident involving blood does occur. And the last one being install bloodborne pathogen kits, things like shoe protectors, gloves, towels. We have spill kits at my place of work in case there is a body fluid or a blood spill. These should be on site at every organization. Employers have to make accommodations for any employee that has a bloodborne disease such as AIDS. Workplace violence is occurring more now than ever. These can be carried out by a disgruntled worker or a former employee. Workplace violence can be lethal or non-lethal. It can occur from a domestic violence dispute. There are laws that protect an employee from domestic violence in the workplace in some states, not every state. A victim can have adverse effects on the company also. If there's a victim of domestic violence, they can be less productive at work. They may miss work more, and they may make more mistakes while on the job. So implementing a workplace policy and taking preventative approaches can lower the risk of domestic violence erupting at work. There are also those employees that can sabotage either another employee by damaging another person's reputation, or they may take it out on the company and maybe damage equipment. So as a manager, you will need to treat your employees fairly and not treat them as expendable. We cannot focus on condemning a person for their bad performance, but we need to rather focus on the behaviors and future improvements from that employee. We should not hire workers who might be prone to violence, and this can be done by asking certain reactive questions during an interview process. There is cumulative trauma disorders, and these are also called repetitive stress injuries. These are injuries such as tennis elbow, carpal tunnel syndrome, and shoulder complaints. Sometimes as a manager, we will need to make accommodations to our employees to reduce these certain injuries. There are also hearing impairment injuries, and it is known that loud noise can lead to hearing impairment. Loud noises can also lead to elevated blood pressure, and it can also affect your digestive system and also maybe even cause some respiratory disorders. So efforts to prevent hearing loss should not be limited to getting employees to protect their hearing. We as employers need to reduce the noise because this is the direct and primary way of preventing hearing loss within our employees. There is also fetal protection, and these are policies that are designed to prevent pregnant employees from being exposed to hazardous chemicals that could potentially harm a fetus. A safe work environment doesn't just happen. It takes development of safety plans within organizations to help ensure the safety of all employees, and it starts with the highest level within the organization. Then it can move on downward to your managers and supervisors. Companies can also provide employee assistance programs, also called EAP, caused by stressors either at work or at home. Employees may have burnout, which is a stress syndrome characterized by emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and reduced personal accomplishment. EAP focuses on treating troubled employees, whereas companies that have wellness programs, the wellness programs focus on the prevention of health problems. While wellness programs are company-sponsored programs that focuses on preventing health problems in employees. So that is the summary review of Chapter 16. We have one more week, so I will see you next week. Thank you.